Just so we're clear, both of us are the reason this didn't work. Hi. We haven't made a video in a while because Reina was...
I fucked off.
To say the least.
Yeah.
And things are different. We have now moved, although our videos were on a trip, but we moved. We have a dog that might creep in at some point.
That's a big difference. We're gonna talk about me leaving.
Yes, and specifically how we fucked up distance. You got a job offer.
I did get a job offer.
To go work at a resort.
It was heavily debated whether or not I should go, but we didn't have much time to decide because it was like a time-sensitive offer.
And it was right around the time where she proposed.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's also a thing.
Yes.
Just to add to the pressure of selection of events.
And there was a lot of things going for this place, a lot. It was adults only. I was going to be teaching yoga. It was a really, really, really beautiful location. It was only for 6 months. Yeah, we talked about it a lot, and at first it was a no.
Yeah, at first it was a hard no, mostly from me, because one, I used to work there, and I know the dynamic and the energy there. I know how bad I would do with distance. I tend to not like actively think about everybody else when I'm apart, but it turned out to be quite the opposite for the person I love the most. But anyways, I knew it was going to be difficult for me. I knew distance was going to be difficult because I need presence, and also our love languages are physical touch and quality time. So both of us were going to get none of that.
Yeah.
So that was going to be really challenging. I knew the energy of the place, which is not quite great as a partner, seeing someone just go. Just like I knew I would be very either too distant or too worried. So at first I was a hard no. I was like, hey, no judgment to you. If you want to go, you can go. Maybe we shouldn't stay together. And it's a bit kind of heartless and yet not. Is my way to not say don't do something, like to just be like, I don't want you to. Is like, well, you have the option to go, but I will struggle, so therefore we shouldn't stay together.
That's not the way I do things, but I get that this is the way some people do it.
And then we fought for like 2 days or so.
I don't know, fighting.
No, but it was like really heavy conversation.
Yeah, we weren't like actively mad at each other.
No.
Like we weren't fighting. And since we were on the trip, like I called my mom and I called my sister, you know, to try and come to a decision. And at that point I was like, I'm okay with not going. I didn't want to break up. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go.
Then guilt set in. I had this realization a little after, like literally by the time she had accepted, I won't go, I don't want to break up.
Yeah.
That's when my brain all of a sudden was like, are you really enforcing that on someone? Are you really like, you know, as much as I didn't say, you cannot, because you have to stay with me, I was like, knowing that that was the effect of it, my brain kind of reconsidered the whole thing. And I was also thinking like, well, maybe that'll give me a chance to do my solo stuff, like to kind of focus on myself for a bit, because I knew I'd let go of a lot of my own things. I'd kind of lost track or just kind of pushed aside a lot of just me. So I had a change of heart, and I kind of was like, hey, I'm not so set on the idea yet. I'm currently considering, like I approached it like that. I was like, I'm currently considering being okay with you going, but I was like, but I'm so not sure about my words that like give me until the morning. I might wake up and completely regret. So just let me wake up and make my decision. And the next morning, I didn't feel any different. Like I didn't feel yes, just like I didn't feel no. But the fact that I didn't feel no was what made me go, sure.
So I said yes. And then we came back to Vancouver for 2 days.
Yeah, that's the detail we didn't mention. Literally, she was gonna leave right after we came back from our long trip together.
Yeah. So I came back for 2 days. I unpacked and repacked, bought some clothes for the resort, and 2 days after being here, I left.
And now we had gone from traveling for 4 months and a half together every day, like
all the time, nonstop.
all the time,
except when I was at
nonstop.
yoga.
And also a complete shift in our daily life, just because of the trip, but also because we started working on this together.
Yep.
And it kind of was like, regardless of working at the resort, coming back together would have been a really big adjustment as well, because we were going to kind of do what we're actively doing now, ironically. But here we were, or I was, back, and then she's already gone.
Yeah.
And so I had the shock of being like the stark contrast that went from this to all on my own. I don't know what I'm doing. Everything that we were doing is no longer there. All the stuff I was doing before doesn't really call out to me. And I was having a full mental breakdown. And I even discovered that I had complex PTSD through that. And on your end, you had like first training and stuff, and then like instantly kicked in, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first week was a bit different because like there was something going on at the resort and I didn't have to do my actual job. There was no yoga. So I had like basically all day free for the first 7 days, which is like kind of good for us because we FaceTime like twice a day, every day, the first week. But I also had a lot of time on my own, like thinking and being sad and being lonely, and I wasn't going really leaving my room, so I was super lonely. And then I was like, I can't do this, like I don't like it here, I'm gonna quit, like this is gonna be a 2-week thing, I'm gonna go home, because I wasn't sure I was gonna like it. Like deciding to go was a decision for me too. I wasn't like, oh yeah, of course I want to go for sure. I had to think about it, obviously, because I mean, we'd been together for 4 months straight, so obviously I was gonna be super sad. And then after the first week ended, I started getting busy. Like, you were busy there. There was a lot to do, so I definitely wasn't able to call twice a day every day.
And then we were keeping to 1 call a day. What we forgot to mention was the condition pre-leaving. We had made this agreement, like, you can go, and if at any point one of us feels like, hey, we need to cut the distance,
I'll come home.
she was willing to quit and come home. If I got to a point where I felt like, hey, I can't do it, I was allowed to say, hey, I can't do it, can you please come back? And then if she got to a point where
I didn't like it, I was lonely, I was sad.
like we said, prioritize this.
Yeah.
And if something is going to hinder that, then cut the thing and quit. And we had this kind of agreement from the beginning. And then, because you would think so far, wow, they're doing great. This is a good idea for a distance. It works. Good communication, good little rules set up.
Which it was.
It was past tense. Because sometimes you can come up with a great concept, but it still doesn't work in practice. On my end, I was really overwhelmed, really like emotional. Pretty much I lived for the period of time that I was calling her. And the rest of the day I was really sad, like full on paralyzed emotionally from the complex PTSD that I discovered. This was a whole thing that I did not know about myself that really came to the surface. I guess it was difficult in that aspect, and it was putting a lot of pressure on her for that 1 call. And on her end, there was just life picking up. Like
a lot.
Friendships and work and...
Like, I got tired too. Like, sometimes we'd call and I'd be fucking falling asleep. I was pretty exhausted. And yeah, sometimes it was difficult for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna go sit in my room inside when I could be on this amazing fucking beach with people in person.
Why are you giving it so much attitude? Sometimes I'm fucking tired. This amazing fucking beach.
Well, I'm just trying to make myself sound less awful. I was kind of awful, yes.
We were both awful to each other in a different way. First, there was the no longer calling every day. Because in the beginning, it was like random times. We hadn't quite set, hey, we'll call at this time. And it was kind of this expectation of me being ready constantly. And if I wasn't, I was missing my call of the day, which, like I just said, I was kind of living for. So it was like, I don't know when it's going to happen, but I can't do something else in case I miss it. And if I missed it, well, that's not happening. And then eventually it also became a thing where I wouldn't hear about it. And then some days there just wouldn't be a call. That's where we started prioritizing different, because the way I prioritize, like I came back to myself after some time. I did some reading, I discovered about the complex PTSD and like fully kind of dove in, did the dirty work, the hard discovery work. And so I kind of came back to my normal life. But the way I was prioritizing scheduling, seeing as that phone call was still, or video call was still very important to me, was I would lock in that amount of, like that period of the day, and then the rest of the day I could plan around. That was my approach. Versus for you, you were more like planning everything else, and then if you could fit me in.
I would say that I did everything I had to do. My primary job.
And more.
Sometimes more.
The primary job, totally fine.
Yeah.
But it quickly became also just, well, hanging out or going out and partying. There's no problem with that, but there was also a lack of updating. Like that's where we went both kind of wrong.
There was definitely a lack of updating.
Yeah, and there was a really strong push. I was making like desperate bids for attention and love. This is something I need and it's not happening right now, and I feel like I'm fighting to have it. And in your case, the stronger I pull,
the more I push.
The more she pushes.
And that's not just with him, that's just my personality. When someone is pulling so hard at me, I'm just like, nope. So that kind of ended up happening. And then, yeah, things just got progressively worse, a lot worse.
There was a certain amount of like, on purpose.
I had my bitchy moments.
Yeah, we used to have location sharing on, and then amidst all our arguments, it eventually also got turned off. And it was like protests for, hey, stop having an idea of what I'm doing. It was silly, but I was using it as a way to know when she was in her room, meaning I could text her. That was my mindset. You're not at work, I can text you, I can say hi. But then amidst all the pulling and the pushing away, then of course she didn't want to reply, and which is totally natural. We discovered the whole anxious attachment, avoidant attachment thing through all this.
I was getting really defensive and stuff.
Yeah, so me knowing that she was in her room and then being like, you're actively not replying, was causing also more conflicts.
Yeah.
And like neither of us is right for that. Just so we're clear, both of us are the reason this didn't work. And a big problem that we had, or that I was feeling on my end, was the non-priority of being answered to. Get a text, reply right back, and then wait 2-3 hours, 4 or 5 hours for a reply. Like, she still had to do work. She still had a busy life. So there's moments that totally made sense where it was like, I can't be expecting a reply right now. I think the conflicts came up when I knew about you being on a break.
Or my day off.
Yeah. They were going to be the like lightest day and ended up being the heaviest day.
I took the socializing far and the drinking.
Yeah. There's a lot of partying when you work at a resort. Like I said, I knew the environment there. I worked for that same resort company at 2 other of their locations. So I knew that was going to happen. Like, I knew there's a lot of socializing, a lot of drinking, a lot of just doing shit. You know, you're having fun. Your life is vacation in a way. And that's where like the prioritizing really kicked in. In my case, I was planning my day around first locking this period of time, and then the rest of the day I could plan around. On the days where she worked, we constantly had a time limit.
I always had somewhere to be.
There was always like, right,
always
has to head back out to work. It used to be that you would call me at the beginning of the break, like literally beginning of the break, so we could talk, and then we'd eventually say bye and she'd go and do her stuff. And then it got to calling me when you only had 15 minutes left to your break. 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left. So it really felt like my chunk of time, my important chunk of time was constantly like just this tiny bit. I, at some point, referred to it as like a prison call.
Yeah.
Where it's like your one call of the day and there it goes. You know, when it was one of those short ones, I was like, there goes my call. And a lot of the times we'd spend that call fighting. Every time we had long calls, we would at least get to a time or a place where we're like vibing and just having like talking, shooting the shit. So that was one of our big thing that kind of really started causing distance in the distance. So it got really bad. It got to a point where I was like, you are not giving anything to this relationship. And in reality, she wasn't. And that's just because we had different approaches to it. In my approach to a relationship, and especially considering long distance, even though I knew or thought I was going to be horrible, my mindset was you have to do twice as much work. You have to give twice as much effort into maintaining this relationship. It's easier when we're face to face. We barely have to work on it. She's right here. We're really good at shooting the shit. Versus like from away, then we have to, especially because of our love languages being things we couldn't use, we couldn't do physical touch or quality time, maintaining that relationship and that bond and that love and making sure the other one feels it and kind of filling that. And my understanding was like, it requires even more work than if you were together. But the way we handle pain kicks in as well.
Yeah.
And to her, that was painful.
Yeah, just to be, like, I have problems being alone and issues with being lonely and stuff. So thinking about it or focusing on it or, like, dwelling in it, I guess, was really difficult for me. Like, I have some coping mechanisms that aren't great. And, I mean, I couldn't really use them that much there. One of them is, like, smoking, which I couldn't really do there. So my other coping mechanism is just to avoid and not think about it. Like, when someone's gone, I just kind of try not to think about them, pretend they never existed, because it's too painful for me to actually deal with it. So that was kind of what I was doing. And I was trying to be alone as little as possible. So, you know, on my breaks, I would be with one of my friends. And everything besides the resort just didn't feel as real. Like, my whole life was that place. Like, that was it. That was everything. So it was hard to put my mind back to real life. Because, I mean, it's everything. It's all you do, all you think about every day.
And especially when you're trying to run away from the rest of the world. Yeah. It's not like anything is forcing you into it because you're in this paradise bubble. You're not forced back into reality until you leave it.
Exactly. You're really not forced back into reality at all.
Yeah, no one there is going to be like, make sure to call your boyfriend. It caused even more distance because her way to avoid it, well, like she said, is to kind of assume like that person doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I was the person that didn't exist anymore. Meanwhile, I was like, hey, I exist. Can you please make me know that you know that I exist and that you miss me? And that was just a conflict of how we deal with emotions. I face my emotions. Like I'm a face it head on type of person. Like I'm like, hey, this is a problem. I don't want to deal with it because I don't want it to be a problem. I'm hurting and I shouldn't hurt. So it got really bad with that because you started pushing me away more and more and more. And it was like choosing to not talk to me, literally changing her phone background to not see my face. I would like it if you saw my face or just if other people knew I existed. And there was another problem there, which was kind of that, like my existence being known. Over there, it's like an environment where it's easy to live in that bubble. And so if people don't know about your life outside, they won't really ask. And I was just like, hey, make sure they know so that I feel secure.
That one got better.
Yeah, but I had to fight you a lot.
Yeah.
And
but that one did get better.
Yeah, eventually she was actually not ashamed to say she was with me. It wasn't shame, but whatever the reasons. And then we just had just like a whole lot of different conflicts that were just pretty much don't ignore me, I can't face you, blah, 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 on like all the subjects. Meanwhile, I was also like trying to figure out our future. And we also have, once again, different perspectives there, which is she can just look at the future and be like, it'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my future is kind of invisible. Having ADHD, I can't tell you what I'm doing in a week. So it's like everything is real now. And if something isn't working now, it won't work in the future. That's just
Not how I think.
the way it is. But that's one of our ongoing arguments always. So what was happening is then it eventually was really, really bad. And we came to this thing back to our first argument, which was time to quit. You got to quit and then come back and fix this.
So eventually, I did.
Eventually.
It was really difficult. Obviously, I was having the fucking time of my life and I didn't want to leave. Also, I'm not the biggest fan of Vancouver, to put it lightly. So I didn't really want to come back to Vancouver. But like, I'm not going to lie and pretend it was easy. It was really difficult, but I made the choice to come back. So I came back. Now I'm here.
We're not going to talk about how long it took for the quitting to?
No.
Well, you didn't just quit and show up.
Okay, yeah. Basically, the time between talking about it and it actually happening is about 2 months. And now I'm back.
Yeah. So out of 6 months, she managed to do 4.
Yes.
Pretty much exactly, almost to the day. Like it got bad.
It got really bad.
You know, you're showing up or it's not working.
Yeah.
Which really made that first agreement go out the window in a way, right? It wasn't just happy, like, right, this is detrimental to us, we should just cut it. It became, wow, fuck you for making this happen. Both directions.
Yeah.
Mad at the other for that event coming to, like, be, I guess. And then we both know that we're horrible at distance. I knew I was going to be bad, which is one of the frustrating sides. Because like I said at the beginning, I was a really hard no until I convinced myself and then still go through all the things. Mm-hmm. I did somehow get a lot of healing through that, not from her, but from dealing with that situation. Like I said, I discovered complex PTSD. I read on it. I actually did a lot of like work within, and I discovered shit about myself and healed things that hadn't been faced or known for my whole life. Literally, like that's one of the best aspects of this whole thing.
Going back, I think we both agree we wish that I hadn't gone.
Yeah.
Even though I had great times and amazing fun, great memories, if I could take it back, I would.
And I think that's one of the main points about this distance thing too, is we both know the damage that happened. We both know that doing that caused so much issues to our relationship. And that's why she's saying, like, if we could, both of us would just say, like, don't go.
Yeah.
You know, we would.
It wasn't worth
just not
the good times.
Yeah. Long distance relationship is definitely possible for some people. We're not those people. We've seen the amount of damage that it caused. And so if we could go back, we wouldn't do it. Like, we are currently repairing, right? And things aren't fixed. I actually saw something while she was gone too, which was a video interview of someone saying that for however long they did distance with their partner, it took that exact same amount of time to get back to how it was before, which kind of actually makes sense. Like the more we're in this, the more I'm like, yeah, it's not going to take 1 week or 2 weeks. It will take a long time. We'll see if it's a 1-for-1 ratio or not.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we both have things we're sad about at the moment and trying to figure out and deal with.
I think there's also like there's a lot of learning on a personal basis that happens. So in a way, there's good that comes out of that.
Yeah.
You have to be on your own. You have to learn certain things that are of value to you. Because as a couple, sometimes, and especially on my end, I was starting to be blinded by relationship. I was starting to put things of my life aside more than I was comfortable with, convincing myself kind of. That was the anxious attachment and just being like, yes, yes, yes. And so that's where now we're dealing with the aftermath, which is kind of finding myself a bit more and being like, hey, actually, I don't want to do that, or I blah, blah, blah. I changed my mind on this topic. And having now this conversation of, right, where are we able to compromise? Mm-hmm. And where are we now discovering that it is a no for one or the other, or a yes for both? Kind of all those things that now we're forced to go through and discuss and have heavy discussions about. But I guess to conclude the whole thing about distance is, one, the biggest thing is we wouldn't do it if we could. I'm not saying everyone shouldn't.
Some people can do it, I think.
Yeah, some people definitely can.
do it.
There's also the level of security you have, the level of communication, or how you are with your partner.
If you have that much doubt at the start, and you don't think you can do it, don't do it.
That's probably fair.
Yeah.
I think don't do it unless you're 100% sure.
Yeah, I think if you're the way we were at the start, like...
if you're 70, 60%, just don't.
Just don't do it.
Just don't fuck with it.
Just don't do it.
Too risky.
If you're confident, go for it. Have a great time. If you're not...
Now that she's back, and in between all our fights...
We're going to be doing more stuff.
We're doing more stuff. We're back to the relationship talks, and more bonus stuff. We also are doing Patreon together.
Woo-hoo. Sorry.
We're right back to making weird noises while we record. Yeah, so we're doing Patreon together as well, which you can get access to most of our content for free on there. So if you want to go ahead and check it out, that's totally fine. It's Sebastienrteller also there. It's just my name.
Yeah.
just like this page. But yeah, we're back to doing all that, and we're still gonna do relationship talks where we talk about the heavy shit. We're just ironically going through some of it right now. You can definitely go ahead and ask questions in the comments. We're always kind of looking for the, I guess, things that you're curious about the most.
Yeah.
Definitely about our relationship, or relationships in general. Like, hey, how do you guys deal with smelly feet?
Why do you think about that?
I don't know. We don't have smelly feet.
Okay.
We don't.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.